this one's the most overbloated of them all, with a whopping 10 routes in comparison to Utopia 7, and with a convoluted plot more obnoxious than Utopia's. This is where Data sharp decline began in my view due to story content. In all honesty, it just has the same exact problem the other two games have, being a moment-by-moment story. That being said, there is a slight bit more to the story content than before, because it does pose an interesting scenario. Problem is, if you follow the guide correctly, you'd know that you generally DEM's fingerprints are all over Arusu installed. That being said, 99% of the game is a complete red herring that is completely obnoxious. Hello, I'm OneMan. Like the video, subscribe if you are new, click the bell, and select all for more of my content, and let's begin. Spoiler warnings as always. Now, to tackle things in this game, we must analyze the two most important characters in this game, Maria and Marina. Marina is the original version of Maria, designed to capitalize on ignorance of Maria's own sense of self to counterwall the firewall set in place by Retrospective, or whatever, fucking hell. I'll never be able to pronounce that name correctly. There's just one slight problem with this. How in the hell does that even work? How does making a splinter of yourself as a program be applied with Shido's own involvement in teaching Maria what love is? I get that DEM and Marina tried hacking My Little Shido too, but it didn't exactly have any proper sense of continuity nor make much sense. Well, your job in the game, as you're basically SAO down into a fine T, into My Little Shido 2, is to win over the waifus a la Tokimeki Memory. It basically applies a shitty harem mechanic into a harem anime. You can tell by their sheer redundancy how much of a dumpster fire this game is. That being said, with its flaws, it does pose an interesting scenario, or a sophistry point of reference, a philosophy dilemma. What creates and or makes a human being? Despite openly acknowledging later on that she's not human, arguably Maria is one of the more human characters, because her desires have more sentient meaning compared to the who wants Shido's dick more desire. On top of that, Shido being completely beta and undesirable of a Melvin. Maria's desire to know what actual love is and what it means is arguably more engaging than the constant rivalry between Tobiichi Origami and Yatagami Toka is more engaging than Bitch Black Ribbons, less cringy than Miku and or Kaguya, etc. That being said, despite me hating Bitch Black Ribbons, she does have an interesting and awesome Yuri scene with Shiori. I fucking love that scene. I say it's Yuri because Kotori clearly tops. What's interesting is that unlike Utopia, the story actually properly plays off of its other endings into the true ending. Maria is the vehicle to making the true end valuable. It isn't even just the true ending either. You see snippets of each route later on down the line, where Maria starts developing variants to her behavior. It's tragic how it ends too. Strangely enough, the best aspects of Data Life are tragic in some aspect. The somewhat happy endings in Real Reincarnation didn't really interest me much. Sure, I initially marked out during Marina's and Maria's routes, but that is also predicated upon the tragedies that beset them. Every single character I wanted to succeed had failed in previous game installments. I love Maria and Marina in this game, and I loved Rene and Utopia. That being said, The absolute length of this game specifically was far too long for me to get too invested into the overarching storyline, because there were just too many goddamn routes for me to care. They aren't even good routes either. Origami's route, Toka's, and Kotoru's are all arguably better in Renee-Utopia. Kaguya, Yuzuru, and Miku are new additions, and Karuni and Yoshino are the only ones with better routes. In all honesty, this game is too damn long, and also has the most obnoxious and insufferable ending in Toka's Adieu. It was already bad enough in Renee-Utopia, but it was just plain awful in Arusu install. It takes far too long to get to the interesting points, and expects you to retain interest in the story, but 3/4 of the way through, I just started to slowly tune out and deal with projects instead. It's a visual novel. There's no consequence to inactivity. Multitasking is not entirely out of the equation, because there are no consequences to doing so. I could not stomach a lot of the boring content, so I just started skipping when I wasn't multitasking. So yeah, while there's interesting content and thematics being presented, there's no reason for me to tolerate a massive amount of the content. DEN doesn't even properly show their faces as antagonists. Even the anime had the sensibility to place DEM as something more than a damn still image. All in all, Arusu Install gets a 2 out of 10 from me. An awfully paced, insufferable story when they weren't presenting fun mini scenarios or working to the overarching piece of content revolving around Maria and Marina. An inconsequential soundtrack when they're not reusing the same BS OST from the last game. Shido being at his most Melvin here as well. So yeah, I'm not really a fan of Arusu Install. That being said, it's better than what's coming up.